All right, good morning, everyone. It is 10:30 on your Monday. This is Weather Extra with meteorologist Eric Burke alongside meteorologist Jeff Desnoyers. Happy to report a much quieter weather pattern is coming for the next several days. Long-term outlook doesn't look like we'll have any severe weather threat for at least the next 10. And I think all of us, not just here in the Tennessee Valley, but across the southeast U.S., up into the Great Lakes, we could all use a reprieve from that severe weather. But we're just going to start off kind of chatting about what we went through Saturday night into Sunday and even parts of last week. I know you covered numerous tornado warnings in Waterloo over the past couple of days. But Saturday night, just to recap, Weather Service in Huntsville did some surveys yesterday reporting 3 separate EF1 tornadoes out there toward the Quad Cities, Muscle Shoals. You got Florence, Tuscumbia, Sheffield, all kind of in that area. One actually producing a few injuries there. But yeah, very active weekend. And you were covering those storms, Jeff, if you just want to kind of walk people through what you guys were looking at on Saturday night and Sunday morning. Busy man.
Yeah, it was. I think the way the setup was too, it was tough to follow all week long because we had this drawn out frontal boundary for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it was making national news for like Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, numerous tornadoes, right? And they were talking about it almost every day, and we knew that that front eventually was going to slip south. Now, we had a little tease on Thursday when we had one of those cells dip down into Waterloo. County Road 3 had a confirmed tornado on Thursday. But once the front moved in, we knew that the dynamics were going to be there. The scenario was going to be for those storms to really pack a punch once they crossed the state line. And unfortunately, they did that. I mean, it was at one point where Chelsea and I were on air, and there was so many different areas of rotation that you're starting to like, okay, we're trying to like just ad lib on air. And she's like, I'll take these two, and I'm taking these two. And we're at the point now where like, okay, which one do we have to watch the most? I mean, there was so many embedded areas of rotation. There was actually almost like 5 at one point. We've had 3 confirmed tornadoes, and more surveys are going to be done today in other parts. But once we got the video confirmation in Florence, we knew something bad was happening. There was 2 tornadoes actually almost side by side in one area. And then we started getting the reports of Aqua Vista, the damage there, and in Elgin as well. That was the one area of rotation that we really thought was producing a tornado, though we didn't have confirmation of that right away. Then it was confirmed. So, and it all goes down so fast. I think a lot of people at home, you know, I didn't get a tornado, I'm fine, you know, and that's good. That's what we want. But for those who are impacted, the one thing that when we do the interviews, the first thing they say was everything just happens so fast. Yeah. You think you have a plan, but until that plan has to come to fruition, now all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I have to move. You know, and I think people realize now, especially those that were affected, how fast it can change.
And this was a prime example, being one of those late evening overnight events. Now it did happen on the weekend. It wasn't a school night, but and even seeing the tornado on the camera there, all things considered, there wasn't that much lightning with it where it was well illuminated. These nighttime tornadoes, especially here in the southeast, it's not like in the plains where you have this picturesque, you know, funnel on the ground because we have so much more precipitation here too. So these are going to be rain wrapped. They're going to be on top of you before you know it. And that was something you were mentioning. You know, you see these areas, now it's confirmed tornado. And when we're covering those storms for you and we see that potential tornado going toward a populated area, there's not a worse feeling for you guys at home that are in the path of that storm, and that's why we put so many storm tracks on it for you to give you that heads up and that lead time and that command to seek shelter. But when we're at the wall too and we see a confirmed tornado heading toward the Quad Cities, one of our more densely populated areas, it's hard, and you're just trying to be as concise as possible, informative, and let these people know that, you know, you are in danger.
Yeah, and what was really tough that night too is, so I had the camera up, and at first I had it turned over in Florence where I could actually see. It was hard to see because, as you mentioned, not a lot of lightning, so it wasn't lightening up. But then once the rain came in, it became rain. I couldn't see anything anymore at that point. But I'd already seen that there was confirmation, though, there was a tornado. Things were starting to fire up on social media. National Weather Service was getting involved, and we knew things were going downhill pretty quickly at that point.
And then that line just continued to move east. It wasn't over with those 3 tornadoes initially in northwest Alabama. Numerous more warnings. You mentioned potential areas of both sides of the state line in Ardmore, for example. Survey underway today in Franklin County in Tennessee, and the Weather Service also checking out areas in Jackson and Marshall counties too. And you were covering those storms too. I know Someone sent Brad some photos near Scottsboro of a lot of trees down, and that's one of the things that they'll be covering today, and probably more surveys to follow. This was a pretty widespread severe weather event, and then on top of that, how much rainfall we saw starting Saturday evening all the way through parts of the day yesterday. Places picking up 4, 5, even up to 6 inches of rain on top of that.
Well, we want to, first off and foremost, is keep people safe from tornadoes and damaging winds. But then there's that rain element. And that's always kind of the part of the severe weather threat that I think a lot of people just like, oh, it's just rainfall. But how many rescues did we have yesterday? Mm-hmm. We talked about those students that were in Bankhead, and they had to be rescued as well. Water rescues are a very serious thing, and even though it doesn't quite make the headlines that the tornadoes do, it's almost like that aftermath of, okay, we went through the tornadoes, okay, it's just raining here on this Sunday morning, but that rain was heavy at times. And it got to the point where we had numerous reports of flash flooding, we had numerous reports of people getting trapped in their cars, and now you have a second element of severe weather that I think a lot of people kind of put their guard down a little bit about because it's not the glamorous tornado thing, you know, and there was an impact even into Sunday with the rainfall, and that rain was coming down heavy.
And straight line winds too. That's why they conduct the surveys, say, was this actually a tornado? Oftentimes with the EF0, EF1 types, we could get straight line winds that are much stronger than those lower end tornadoes too. But great work over the weekend to you, meteorologist Chelsea Aaron, covering that well into the early morning hours of Sunday. Maybe some of you guys were watching the stream and, of course, the on-air coverage too. But that's April for you, we know. And you said this at the start of Weather Extra here. We almost caught a break. We could have had severe weather for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We had that area of high pressure just keeping things to our west, but our neighbors in Mississippi, West Tennessee, Arkansas, they had a brutal week. And now you've got the flooding going on with the Ohio River, places like Louisville, Cincinnati, incredibly high parts of Kentucky there, Frankfort, Kentucky, beautiful area, the capital of Kentucky, and they're underwater. Yeah,
rivers and streams keep rising when the rain stops. You got all this runoff. The flooding for the rivers and streams continues days after you get a heavy rainfall. And we had heavy rain, but you want to talk about some heavy rain. Some areas along that frontal boundary that had to make the move into our area Saturday. I mean, some areas had over a foot of rainfall.
15 inches.
It's crazy.
Yeah, breaking records. And that's what happens when you have that stalled boundary that finally came in. And once it did come in, did produce all that severe weather and the flooding for us too.
You mentioned it was April outside, right? You said that's what happens in April, but I want you to convince the people watching right now that it's still April outside when you walk outside, because what happened?
Well, the front came in. That's the easiest way to put it. But yeah, temperatures last week, we were pushing 90 degrees on Thursday. And then you get a day like today, you're waking up, temps are in the mid-40s. And tomorrow, Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning, that will come as a real shock to the system too. And you know more about planting and everything than I do. But we'll kind of be on that frost freeze watch, I think, if anything, Wednesday morning. Keep an eye on those plants in the ground or potted plants. Take care of those too.
Yeah, the cold temperatures really shocked the system when I grabbed my jacket this morning. And I've talked about this before. If you have planted something in the garden and you're worried about it maybe freezing or maybe losing it to the cold temperatures, you don't have to cover it necessarily if you don't have anything to cover. We talk about a burlap bag, which usually be the best thing. But I've talked about this before. You just take a little water. I know you think water would freeze faster, but the water actually keeps the soil around the plant a little warmer overnight. It retains the heat. So therefore, you can prevent the plant from dying from a frost or freeze by just watering it right before you go to bed, 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, and that water will help retain the heat inside the soil, and that will save your plant from dying.
Just a wealth of knowledge, not just meteorology. But
I wish my garden looked like I knew what I was doing. But
well, you said you're going to put in some work on Wednesday, and Wednesday is my pick of the week. So we're going to get to your forecast now. We always just like to look back at these events, kind of reflect for things from our end and your end, and of course appreciate all of the viewer photos, videos provided too, and of course we'll let you know what's going on with those ongoing storm surveys. But our friend AJ here, there's a look at the Parkway as we go outside on this Monday, mid to late morning here. Had some areas of fog to deal with this morning, but that fog actually moved out relatively quickly, and that was good. I thought it would actually linger a little bit longer, but here's just your 10:30 traffic on the Parkway. We talked for about a good 8-9 minutes there. There's a lot to cover.
Do you see a little brightness there? Do I see a little shadow?
You know, parts of the day, even on your Sunday, it just looked like the sun was just trying to peek through, but we didn't actually see much of that. So Just kind of going through some of our graphics here, we'll give you a quick rundown. Last week, obviously, we talked all about the threat for severe storms on Saturday and the potential also Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for those storms in our western counties. But here's our afternoon planner. Temperatures will continue to warm up. I think we start to see some breaks in the clouds as we go through the rest of the afternoon. Some of that drier air will start to filter in as we go through the rest of the day today, and eventually that means the clouds will start to move out. Forecast for tonight, now we're going to bed with mainly clear skies. Temperatures will fall mid to upper 30s, but we'll have enough wind tonight that I don't anticipate any frost or freeze concerns. Maybe some of those sheltered areas of Sand Mountain, but that's really about it. Jeff will walk you through the next 3 days here.
Yeah, it'll be chilly there on Tuesday still, only in the 50s, but abundant sunshine and a little breeze. But I think it turns out to be a really nice day, kind of a hoodie, jacket kind of day. Some of you are really into that, and that's cool. If not, you want it warmer, just wait till Wednesday. You're good after a chilly morning, which will have a little frost in the morning, and then temperatures back up to 70. And then our next chance of storms, and I know a lot of you are like, oh, no, not storms again, but those will be very isolated during the day. It's more at night. They don't look like they'll be severe. The coverage looks to be minimal, maybe favoring even areas east of I-65 as a front drops south, and the temperatures will spike to the low 70s. And if we can hold the rain off until nighttime, the day won't be so bad, and you could probably enjoy a little time outside if Thursday happens to be your day off.
Yeah, and Thursday, not talking about a threat of severe storms, and even the rainfall totals with Thursday afternoon and evening look to be on the lighter side, maybe a tenth to a third of an inch of rain. That's about it. And this is a great opportunity for us to dry out significantly too after the heavy rain we saw. So here's our next chance of rain. We just talked about it on Thursday. Temperatures will be in the low to mid 70s. Looks like we start to see some scattered showers popping up, a few rumbles of thunder potentially as we go through the afternoon into the evening, but I think a more widespread threat for rainfall, at least as far as coverage and probably intensity too, will come after that evening commute on Thursday, and then we go through the overnight, a few showers maybe into the very early morning parts of your Friday. Friday, not a bad end to the week by any means. Temperatures will warm into the mid to upper 60s, should be mostly sunny, and the wind will be out of the north and west. So let's, last but not least, let's check out that 10-day forecast for you. Big news here, our Huntsville Havoc, number 2 in the SPHL. They've got their first home playoff game. Now, this won't be at Probst Arena. This will actually be at the Huntsville Iceplex. They're a fantastic facility. And then they go on the road for game 2 to Evansville. And then that Saturday game is a if necessary. Hopefully, those games
the third one doesn't
not
matter.
needed.
Yeah,
hopefully they win 2 and they're on their way to the next round of the playoffs. But also Saturday, a touch on the cool side, 64, 73 Sunday, looks great, and then nice low 80s after that. But most importantly, as of right now, no signals or indications of potential severe weather here. We'll continue to keep an eye on Thursday, but that should just be more of the scattered rainfall variety. And that's about it. That's the forecast in a nutshell.
Talk about the Havoc. The Pandas also, they got rained out Sunday. They were managed to play Friday and Saturday. They got the game in with a dramatic win on Saturday before the Storms came in and did their dramatics. But this week ahead, Pandas are home this week too. And with the weather cooperating, once they kick off the home stand again on Tuesday, it looks like maybe Thursday night might have some issues. But other than that, it looks like the home stand's good for weather, which is fantastic. And the best part about that 10-day forecast, no severe weather on a weekend.
On the weekend.
How am I going to get by with just a quiet
normal
Saturday, Sunday?
weekend? I'm sure all of you appreciative of that forecast too. But that's going to wrap up Weather Extra here on this Monday. For meteorologist Jeff Desnoyers, myself, meteorologist Eric Burke. Hope you have a great Monday, a great week, and looking forward to next week with those 80s and sunshine. So have a great day, and Jeff will be on TVL with Peyton Walker along with your newscast at noon with Gina Benitez. Have a great day. Thanks for joining.